2022, my friends, there was a 37-year-old woman in British Columbia. She called CTV News and she used a fake name. She was too scared to use her real one. She had a connective tissue disorder, chronic pain, and she told the reporter about the health system in this province and what she felt was like a lack of support for her condition. Now, she couldn't get the care that she needed, and that's what she said. These were her own words on the record. And months later, in 2022, she was approved for Canada's MAiD program, and by the end of October, she was just gone off the face of the earth. And the very next day, a fashion retailer released a 3-minute video about her. Bubbles, a beach, candlelit dinners. And you guys heard me talk about this. This is Jennifer Hatch. Over 1 million views. You've seen the clip. It's been everywhere. I've made sure that the world knows who did it and why they did it. It's been all over your feed this year. So I'm going to tell you exactly who made it. And then I'm going to ask you one question at the end that every single facts checker apparently seems to skip. And if you've ever wondered how something like this gets made, approved, and put in front of millions of people, subscribe right here. Do it now before we get into it. Because this channel exists to read the paperwork that nobody else reads. It exists to help others. And so I ask that you send this episode or this clip to somebody, because people deserve the real story, not the one they're slow dripping you. Let's get the facts right. Let's get them nailed down, my friends. Because half of the internet's got it wrong in both directions. I've said it before, but this one is true too. The ad is real. It's not the only one. Another group called We Can Choose, funded by Dying with Dignity and their new fancy name, they're running more ads on CTV, friends, ones that are designed to promote MAiD to the most vulnerable. Now, this one I'm speaking of was produced by La Maison Simons, which is Simon's department store. The Quebec one released October 24th, 2022, the day after Jennifer's passing. The withdrawal was massive. The backlash was huge. And this year it started circulating again, and people claimed that it was a government ad. No, it wasn't. No. This was an ad from an assisted dying company. No, it was not. This was an ad from, well, let's be honest, a clothing retailer. That's the truth. It was work that I've linked myself. But you notice what happens? Every fact checker in the country sprinted to answer who made it, not asking the real important question. Why is anybody even allowed to make that? Why was a retailer allowed to market a woman's final act as a lifestyle? Why did it clear every approval desk it crossed? And then why right now, today, are thousands of ads like this in the same category running on one of the biggest advertising platforms on earth? That's today's episode, my friends. Not the one who made the clip, but who allowed them to make it at all. So let's start here. Meta, Facebook and Instagram. It publishes its own advertising standards. Public document, link below. You guys can find it. Look into it yourself. You can see everything that's being advertised there. And on your screen right now are those standards that say about ads touching the most sensitive categories that they will regulate. And I'm going to read you the exact little text a little later in this episode. And when I do, you'll understand why I'm holding on to it. But for now, you can read it yourself. Pause if you need to. Just hit that button. Notice the words must not encourage. Notice the words regardless of context. Meta's safety pages go even further. They say their words on screen that they have never allowed people to celebrate or promote this category of content. Never. That's their words. Their platform alerted emergency services to when somebody is at risk. They built the detection technology for it. And they are, by their own description, very agonizingly careful here. So hold that, because now I'm going to show you the spend report. Now, this is a lot bigger than most people want to acknowledge. How big? Well, the largest end-of-life advocacy organization in the country, Dying with Dignity, files audited financial statements April 2026, signed by their accountants, posted on their own website, linked below. Advertising and promotions. 2025 ad spend. Are you ready for this? $1,013,241. That's over $1 million in 1 year, friends. And the year before was $803,000. Now, that's a 26% jump in 12 months. Then add the $110,000 in donation ad spend to their accountant's record on top. The real advertising footprint last year was over $1.1 million. Now, where does that come from? Well, donations, of course. $2.9 million alone. Now, do the math. 34 cents of every single dollar donated goes to marketing. That is 1 in 3. Somebody's grandmother writes a $100 check for compassion and choice, and 34 cents of that buys an ad on Facebook. Now, that's the whole machine, every channel, 1 year. Now, the Meta piece specifically, because Meta publishes an ad library where every advertiser, every dollar, public free. I pulled this report on July 19th. Now, on Facebook and Instagram alone, it showed $720,000 since July of 2019, up more than 100,000 since I checked 1 year ago. And the ad count, are you ready for this? 6782. 6,782 ads promoting death to you. Now, that number on its own, 7 years, that's roughly 2.5 times a day, weekends, Christmases, national awareness weeks dedicated to the exact opposite message. But somebody's job, their actual daily job, is to put together the next one on your feed before lunch. So on one side of your screen, you have the platform's rulebook, agonizingly careful. And on the other, $1 million a year in advertising, 6,700 ads approved by Meta's own platform to the tune of $720,000 collected and cashed in by Meta itself. So how do both of these coexist at the same time? Well, the answer is one word, friends. In about 60 seconds, I'm finally allowed to say it, but we haven't crossed that threshold yet. Now, ads must not encourage suicide, self-injury, or eating disorders, including fictional content created such as memes or illustrations, and any such content which is graphic regardless of context. Suicide. That's the word. That is the entire load-bearing wall. Because in this country, MAiD is not classified as suicide, friends. Hell no. Parliament carved it out of the criminal code framework in 2016. What would be an offense to counsel became a medical service to provide. Health Canada doesn't call it suicide. It's not even listed as a cause of Canadian death on the death certificates. Nope, it was a word that was removed at every level of the system. So when Dying with Dignity Canada submits the ad number of 6,783 tonight, what does Meta's review see? Not a violation of a suicide policy, friends. They see a registered charity, a legal medical service, approved and 2.5 times a day for 7 years. The rule didn't fail. The definition did. And that's what they've been doing this whole time. And understand what the definition unlocks, please, for a second. Suicide prevention organizations in this country operate under safe messaging guidelines. They are agonizingly careful, as we are as well, about how they're able to discuss death, words, images, timing, you name it. But because the research is settled, right? Because it's settled, messaging kills. Meanwhile, the marketing of assisted death runs with no equivalent guardrails at all, aimed by nature of who this messaging is for. At the sick, the old, the disabled, the depressed, the alone, and the exact people the guideline exists to protect. One category of death messaging is whispered, hedged, and the other is hot stamped. And the other, well, they just get to A/B test, friends. Now, they get to A/B test, and why? Because nobody seems to stop them. Why? Because apparently, nobody seems to care. Maybe it's just me, but see, now, Jennifer Hatch, let's go back to that clip here on CTV. Under the pseudonym, months before she died, she felt unsupported by BC's health system. She could not get the tests she needed for her condition, and that's super well documented on the record. Now, the system itself that couldn't find care for her, super found approval though, now didn't it? And then, the day after she died, her final months became content. Set the music, color graded, a brand film from a company that sells sweaters. And when it resurfaced this year and last year, when I talked about it on every single platform possible, the national response was to scramble to clarify which corporation made it. And if that's the scandal, well, the scandal should be a woman who said out loud she could not get health care and she ended up as an aesthetic. The scandal is who made the ad. And who has made it possible in this country? Because Simon's made that one, my friends, but Dying with Dignity made 6,782 other ones. Different logos, same product. And Meta cashed their checks. Woo! $720,000 of them, friends. I know it's Canadian dollars, so it's worth almost nothing. But the company that says it's never allowed the promotion of suicide, that alerts emergency services to wellness checks, and has built the technology for detection. Well, that company's ad system approved all of these death ads roughly 10 hours for 7 years because the paperwork said it was a friggin' charity instead of the word that their policy actually screens for. And that didn't break the rule. They banked on that definition. They banked on the difference. And I want you to hold on to that because that is the difference between a scandal and a system. Hey, everyone. There was a point when I realized I wasn't burnt out. I was just depleted. Not emotionally, not physically. I was just training and working and thinking constantly, writing for this show and replacing it all with caffeine and grit. And what changed things for me was fixing the basics. Great hydration, real minerals, and support for my nervous system instead of the constant stimulus. Good Living's electrolyte mix covers all of what most brands and people are missing, whether it's creatine, cordyceps, sea salt, potassium, magnesium, and thankfully, no added sugar in ratios that actually make sense for the body. And their functional mushrooms help with focus and stress without flipping your nervous system into fight or flight. It's not exciting, it's effective. I don't use wellness products, but Good Living earned a spot in my daily stack, and I will never live without it again. If you want to feel more stable instead of more hyped, well, the link is in the show notes. Give them a shot. I promise you won't regret it. See, the money feeding that system is just one more document. Their audited statements show that Dying with Dignity Canada is sitting on $8.76 million of investment, earning $646,153 in investments income last year alone. And the Charity Intelligence noticed that their reserves could cover program costs for over 4 years. So they're not going anywhere, friends. But they could just stop fundraising tomorrow and keep advertising till 2030. They don't need your money to operate. They don't need it to advertise. And Meta, well, they just need them to keep buying. Now, everything I have showed you is very, very, very well documented, my friends. And Meta's publishing advertising standards are there. Meta's own ad library, Dying with Dignity's own audited financial statements, and even the Canadian press AFP fact checks, even though I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. But Jennifer's own words on CTV, every link is below. Please go check every number, because next is my opinion. And again, I've earned it. When a country deletes a word from its law, its health records, and its death certificates, and the world's largest advertising machine uses that deletion as a permission slip, that's not an oversight, friends. That's a business model. Meta wrote the rule to protect the vulnerable from dying, and I applaud them. But then they allowed another organization to spend millions of dollars on 6,782 ads. And they said, hey, Meta's own policy would take every single one of them down by lunch, but the paragraph itself, it's just my opinion. And every document underneath, though, well, that's the truth. Because they're not hiding any of this, and the rule book is public. The spend report, public. The financials are public. And they don't think you're going to look at all at them, but that's okay, because I do. I look over and over and over again. If you want the full economics of this system, who bills, who profits, and how the money actually moves, the book Do No Harm is coming out this March, so make sure to grab a copy of that. But today, those 3 tabs that are in the description. Number 1 is Meta's advertising standards. Number 2 is the ad library. You guys can search it yourself. It's actually kind of fun because you can also check out any other organization and what they're spending. Now, send this to a person that you know wants to know what's going on. Give them the paperwork so you don't get played. Listen, friends, subscribe if you can. Go over to Rumble, hit that button. Go over to Substack, do the same. If you've got a few bucks to spare, drop it in, buy me a coffee, and I will see you all in 2 days. Have a great one.